and welcome to a roundup debate as part of the YOU+EU 2024 and Beyond project, co-financed by the European Parliament. My name is Diana Petrescu, I will be your host today, and I have with me distinguished guests. I'm delighted to welcome today Mrs. Mercedes Bresso, MEP, Group of Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats in the European Parliament. Hello, thanks for accepting our invitation. Mr. Nicolae Ștefănuţă, MEP, Group of the Greens, European Free Alliance, Romania. Hello, thanks for joining us.
Hello. Mulțumesc.
Ms. Olivia Serra Calvo, President of the European Student Think Tank, who focuses in her research activity, and not only, on human rights, children's rights, international security and European affairs. Hello, thanks for your participation.
Thank you for inviting me.
And Mrs. Elżbieta Bieńkowska, former Polish European Commissioner for the Single Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs, Chair of the Center for European Policy Studies Board. Actually, the first woman.
Chairwoman.
Yes, actually the first woman to hold this position.
Thank you.
Hello, thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you very much.
2023 has turned out to be another year of unprecedented challenges for the European legislature, which has had an atypical term in office anyway. It had to deal with Brexit, the number of MEPs has changed, the President of the European Parliament, the charismatic David Sassoli, passed away, the COVID pandemic changed people's lives and took its toll on the EU economy, then the war in Ukraine rocked the continent after almost 80 years of peace in Europe. Europeans have weathered an energy crisis, ensued by a food crisis, and we are now looking at the latest developments in Gaza Strip. Now, with the finish line of this legislature in sight, what have been, in your opinion, the biggest challenges the EU had to cope with? And has the EU risen up to the expectations?
I'm starting. I think it's obvious that the biggest challenges or the biggest crisis this legislature had was COVID and the war. Of course, nobody expected those two, so that's why probably the work of the Parliament and the Commission would be much smoother without those two. But on the other hand, from this grew something very special, because, for example, the new generation EU was born, which means that Europe had a common loan. It is important, as we discuss the future of the European Union. This is something which really changed completely the way member states think about Europe, because they need to pay the loan. It's like a mortgage in the marriage. You know, it's really links very, very strongly. So this is something very important, and I think, of course, beside COVID and war in Ukraine, which is also connected with the thinking of a security and defense at the European Union level, which really started a little bit during Juncker mandate when I was a commissioner with the European Defence Fund. But of course now we see how important it is to think about the European security and discuss it between European Union member states, although they are also members of the NATO. It is important, but you know, being stronger in defense in Europe makes NATO stronger. We need to rely also partly on ourselves, and of course, probably we'll discuss it. The Green Deal, the big legislation, which was probably be the main, if not COVID and if not war in Ukraine.
Ms. Bresso?
Thank you. I think, as Elżbieta, that the main problem of this legislature were sure starting with COVID and after the two wars, for the first time with a real war in Europe, and also since a lot of time we didn't have a so complex situation and war in the Mediterranean area. So these are sure the main problem, both not solved, and on both we discovered, realized that Europe has not yet the instrument to intervene. We need competencies and capacities to act if we want to have a role in the future of our continent, because we are speaking about our continent, not about the rest of the world. So this demand a reflection about the actual treaties and their change, and this is what we did the last week. It was not a big majority, this was a pity, but I think that this depends more from the differences between the different states than to the idea that we have to change. So I think that the convention, or another way to discuss together how to change and to avoid that a small group will go ahead, as sometimes arrive. I don't think this could be a good idea, should be a good idea. The idea is to discuss and to find a way to change, to have in Europe able to decide and to protect their citizens. And this means, first of all, security and defense and foreign policy. Policy strong, that means common strong defense and security policy, but means also other competencies in different fields, because we have also to protect our citizens. So more social policy, common, to finish the Green Deal. I will go after to the Green Deal, and to be able to protect our activities, our industries, our agriculture. So the strategic compass for Europe, that means the possibility to have all
we always need more than good intentions.
Yes,
We
need to be able to produce all we need, the important product with all the phases of production, not just the last phases importing the first, because in this way we are not secure to have what we need for the future. This is true also for agriculture, so for the strategic and essential possibility to guarantee food to all Europeans. The other fundamental subject was the Green Deal. The Green Deal is a way to keep again Europe on the front line of environmental policies, because we lost a lot of time and spaces. So we need to come back. Europe is coming back with the Green Deal. Also in this case, probably we have done some error, mistakes, and so we have some difficulties, but this we can affront in the next legislature. But if we finish the global work about the Green Deal, we can tell Europe is here, and Europe is a leader in the transformation, in the green transformation. We need also on digital transformation. This is another point on which we are very late, and we have to accelerate our capacity to act.
The European Union, along with other major world economies, has embarked on a quest to adapt to climate change and to ensure more rational use of the planet's resources. For this to succeed and for the EU to thrive throughout the process, the bloc's industries need to be able to rely on a workforce that is fit for the purpose, equipped with the right expertise. Do you think is this requirement likely to produce major changes on the job market?
Yes, we need big changes in the job market, and this is another very fundamental point of activity for the future of European Union. We need to train our young people and also all the workers on the two aspect of fundamental changes for the future. One is digital economy, so we are a bit late in digital economy. We have to recuperate a capacity to act, but we need a very important training of all our workers on digital and also on green technologies, because otherwise we will not have people with us. We need to have people and company with us in this. It's not only a Green Deal, it's a great challenge. This challenge is important and can be successful if we have all people with us, and they need formation, they need the training to be able to accept the change and to profit of the change, to be able to have more for them from the changes and not less. And this, I think, is perhaps some we lost in this legislature to do with our citizens, to explain better how is important these two changes for their future and for the future of young people in Europe. Otherwise, if we lost the capacity of being competitive, we lost the future for our young people. And so this is, I think, very, very important to discuss with our citizens in the electoral campaign we will have, to explain how is important what you have done and how is important to have them on board with us.
Ms. Calvo, do you think that teenagers and young adults feel adequately prepared to participate in the green economy?
So I think not really. I think we're working towards there, and the EU is giving a lot of resources in that matter to build on the skills, especially digital skills that are very necessary for this new economy that we're going towards. But of course, there still work needs to be done in that situation, and the different trainings or education has to be also adapted for that purpose. So yeah, indeed, there's still work to do, but I think also as young generations, we are also trying to learn on our side, by ourselves, by teaching ourselves through different platforms online or being part of organizations like the one I'm presiding. So this is also a way of learning in a non-formal way. So it's a bit this way, I guess, how we are trying to make it work.
Mr. Ștefănuţă, in your view, what have been the big challenges, and also the big achievements?
I'll start with the latter one, because I think we have not seen that underneath the surface, our youth is going through a crisis of several kinds. Economic, in terms of opportunities. There's a famous report called Poorer Than Your Parents. I have the impression that young people feel they lack some of the opportunities other generations have had, even though perhaps other generations feel they had it hard, but definitely the pandemic has hit the youth very hard. There's a rampage of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, etc. at very young ages. Anxiety about the climate, anxiety about the economic future, anxiety about the war. It's not an easy planet out there, is it? I mean, I have a 3-year-old daughter, and I'm also thinking a bit anxiously about her future and what kind of future we leave for them. When we speak about 2050, for instance, if we speak about the Green Deal and our goals, that means the time when my daughter will be 30. So that's very soon, actually. Mm-hmm. It's very, it's just within a generation. It's very soon. And 2100, when we speak about global warming by 2 degrees, it's when she'll be 80. It's soon. So that's why the youth and the future of Europe with the youth is one of the main concerns. Now, if you ask me backwards what we have done, certainly we have done good things, I think. The Green Deal was a good thing, a necessary thing. It's also an economic policy for the future in which we say we will be more sustainable and we get prepared and we put funds on the table. So it's a complete plan. It's not just an ecological plan, it's a complete plan.
What have been your flagship initiatives, so to say?
My flagship initiatives, I cared a lot about health. I'm glad that this parliament gave a health policy for the union, and secondly, I fight for Erasmus. I have a program called Erasmus Equality, which strives to bring Erasmus scholarships higher. Why? Because right now it's only kids of rich families who get to go. It's starting to become an elite project, and we cannot afford as a European Union that our most cherished and our most successful project becomes an elite project. I talk to many young people and they say, we cannot afford, with 500, 600 euro a month, we cannot afford to live in Paris, in Milan, in even Warsaw or Bucharest. These are not cheap cities anymore. So bringing the level of scholarships up so that every single child, no matter what kind of background from their family, that they can go, it's one of my biggest goals. And it's also an initiative, it's not just a goal.
Maybe that's why the buzzword nowadays is resilience. And resilience also means stability. And stability translates in many forms. We should educate our young people. We should eliminate inequalities, if you want, paradoxically. This is how you achieve.
Resilience is one thing, but when you have a number of big existential dangers, that's another thing. I mean, you can be all the resilient you want, but when the world is burning right and left, it's not as easy to be resilient, no? And so we have to play our part intergenerationally, try to leave things perhaps more predictable, more calmer, try to think about tomorrow.
What are your fears, your expectations, your hopes for tomorrow?
My greatest fear, and Ms. Elżbieta Bieńkowska and also Mercedes said it very well, that foreign policy, I think it's has been stuck in time a bit. We have not had enough courage to bring a more common foreign policy. I was thinking, 1993, we had the Yugoslav wars. 2003, we had the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. 2013, Maidan and Ukraine and Crimea. And now 2023, Israel, Gaza, Ukraine. And yet, the European Union is kind of similar to what it was in 1993, when I remember the Italian foreign minister, is it De Angelis, I don't remember the name, was trying to negotiate a deal in the Balkans. We are kind of in the same position where we have a power, because these are our neighbors, but our power is not that great because we don't have the instruments, we don't have the unity. It's a bit frustrating. It's been 30 years.
But steps should still be made, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is a fundamental question for the EU. What we want to be, because definitely we are now everybody's talking, because this is the moment in time about the enlargement, not only about Ukraine but also Western Balkans. But European Union will not work as it works even now with the smuggling through the subject with 30-something member states. It will be an institution or organization which will not be able to work properly and to react actively on different challenges, because of course we are talking about stability, we are talking about war in Europe and other war which is just around the corner. But we also need to think, if we are thinking about the future, about Europe. Okay, it's a word, competitiveness. We are living in the really very difficult and changing times, and of course everybody says it's probably for the generations, but these are really like earthquake time globally. Yeah. This is a time when we need to decide whether we want to be strong, unified, or we want to just, in some parts of a single market, but single market, maybe 2, 3, 5 member states use the single market as it should be used. We want to be unified, or we want to be separated. We need really answer to this next question. I know it's difficult in different member states. Probably that's why also the voting was as it was.
Yes.
But because some internal political reasons, and people are afraid sometimes in different member states. But of course, we need to educate people that we will not solve this in 1 year time. It will take years, but we need after the conference on the future of Europe, we need desperately to find an answer to the question whether we want to be unified. Because if we are not, we really do not count on the global stage. It's very visible. I saw it as I was dealing with the single market. You know, we have countries from 90 million Germany to 500,000 Malta. None of them, even Germany, with this huge economy in industry and this population, does not count on the global stage if it's alone, if it's not backed by this big organization of the European Union. And this is where I know that, again, it's a never-ending story and still constant question about how to really reach out to the people and how to tell them that what is happening here in this city is important to them, you know? Because in the electoral campaign for the European Parliament, people think that European MEPs will, you know, give them a road or whatever. This is not about, this is much more broader picture, but on the other hand, here are the resolutions, or here are the topics that really will touch their lives, will touch the lives of their children, whether they will really, you know, migration, war, stability, economy, where we will work, how we will teach our students, how we will heal, how our health policy will look. Again, maybe unfortunately, but fortunately, we started to discuss the health policy at the European level because of COVID. If not, probably we will again, you know, discuss it for years. Now with the COVID and with the vaccines, it was much faster and much more achievable to the member states to get the vaccines. So these are really fundamental questions, and they are then divided into the smaller ones. You know, when we talk about the education, again, we've been talking about this for years. How to link the industry or the needs of the industry with the education, with the educational institutions, with the universities, with the schools. How to link them? And this link must happen at the regional level. More local, better, not at the European level, because, you know, in Romania, in Craiova, you have industry. So there, this industry will be digitalized, whether we want it or not, because the world is changing. So how to find the people who are really fit for this industry in this small region, relatively small region of Craiova on the map of the European Union? So these are really the questions which needed to be answered, and I think the education, you know. I was once asked, what is the most important? You know, legislation, this. I said, educating people, different ages.
A good example of solidarity was, I think, in the field of energy. Mm-hmm. And a good example, I think, is Repowering.
Again, yes.
It was
again,
an outstanding...
United Europe, not,
exactly.
not divided.
But is the EU immune to further shocks? Energy world?
It's not.
It's not, of course, it's not.
It's not, but we are broke. We don't have money. And that's a big problem. Because if we have other shocks, we already planned for, I am speaking now as I was a budget rapporteur in this house last year for 2023. And this year, we only had 1 billion euros in reserves. 1 billion. People imagine the European Union has countless money, and it can always answer to any possible crisis. And when we planned this budget in 2020, there was no pandemic, no war, no inflation, no energy crisis, no Ukraine and Russia, no. And we deal with the same money before 5 different crises. So to your question, if we are ready for another crisis, we are not ready for another crisis. And actually, we should talk about this seriously in the next election, and also because now we're revising the 7-year budget in the so-called MFF. Yeah. We should really talk about and tell the member states, look, if you don't give us the means, if we don't give each other the means, give ourselves the means, you will destroy the European Union. It's as easy as that, because once you are in a situation to not be able to answer to a crisis, citizens will lose faith. When Bergamo happened with the pandemic, we had zero money for crisis, zero.
Yeah.
And we had to watch people being put in trucks, dead from the hospital, until we got, looked for means, etc., and we could respond. But for a moment, the European Union looked weak for the citizen, and we cannot afford this.
Yeah. The question of resources is very important. Is another one on the plate of the
exactly,
next.
Yes. It's the other side of the coin.
Yes, because we can't imagine to have more competencies without more money, and the money can be decided with the limit clearly established, but decided by the European Union itself. The two legislators, the Parliament and the Council. And I think that it's clear for us, not for all our also colleagues, that without a change of the structure, fundamental structure of the European Union, we can go ahead. Not the enlargement, because the enlargement has the absolute necessity of a different way to take decision. So now we will see if the European Council will decide. I think that the Council will pass the decision of the Parliament, because it's a decision to ask for a new convention. If they decided, the European Council, not to go ahead with the idea of a convention, they have to propose something else, because we can't stay here. This is the problem. It's not a convention, this is the instrument in the treaty to change the European Union. But we can open a discussion about our proposal, perhaps also before to start a convention, but we need to know what the different states want to do. We can't stay here. So I think that there are fear from some states to lose their sovereignty. But what sovereignty are we speaking? Because at the world level, we can't speak without 27 voices. We don't count anything, so we have to speak with one voice. But the competencies proper to the state in a federal or quasi-federal states are of the states, so we have to respect this. I think that we have to clarify the mechanism. If they don't want to call it a federal state, we can call a confederal state. The Switzerland is already a confederate state. Also, in fact, they are a federal one, but they call them confederal. So confederation is more clear.
So solidarity seems to be the
could
key
be
word,
a possibility, no?
in your opinion?
And also, I think there is a technical point, but which is very important. The shared competence in the European Union means that the European Union can decide what are their competences, its competencies, and the rest leave to the states. No. I think that in giving a competence to the European Union, the state should decide what are the part of the European Union, and the rest is of the state. So it can be more acceptable, for example, on health. Health is clear that we need a shared competences, but not all the health can be transferred to the European Union. So we have to improve the competencies, but having clear that what we leave to the states is untouchable from the European Union. This is important because in a federal, quasi-federal, confederal state, we need to be very clear about the competencies and to avoid the idea that we can go always a bit more in the. Otherwise, is perceived as a kind of imposition from the European Union. So I think that we should discuss about this to clarify what we want. What we should want is to have a strong representation on the very important things. That means foreign policy, defense, strategic industrial policy, strategic environmental activities and policy, to speak with one voice when we go to international negotiation, but also to leave the states their competencies. And I think if you look at the two examples, a small one and the big one, the Switzerland and the United States of America, the competencies of the states are very important, very strong, and defended by the states. It's not that the federal state can do what we want, but the external representation is one, and the voice is one. The United States of America mean this, but the United States, the states are there. I think there is a fear from our state to lose this sovereignty. They will not lose, they will transfer to themselves, because we are always together, no? We transfer what is impossible to manage actually at state level. Malta can't have a foreign policy, but also Germany can't have a foreign policy, because it's not important for the rest of the world. So I think that we have probably the parliament avoid this discussion about the demand to change the treaties, and perhaps could be an idea for the next legislature to try to explain better between us, and to avoid to have Polish against, Romanian against, because a lot of Romania voted against. I think there's not in their interest, but it was not clear for them what we are voting for. We were voting for.
I just want to say that it's, as we discuss the security, the competitiveness, the industry, whatever, the education, health, for us it's clear that it's better to be together. But you know, and we must know, that it's a very sensitive issue in many member states. It's very sensitive, and if you mention federation, oh my God, it's a furious, attack. It's so let's start with the education. Let's not talk about the federalization of the European Union, but let's talk how to better and more and smoother work together. Yes. This is, I think we should start with this, but because if you start with comparing EU to the USA, in Poland it's done. It's done. It's no discussion at all. No discussion. It's no discussion. Unfortunately, I mean, that's why we need to really show people what it means to be together and to work smoothly, not like the United Nations or OECD or whatever. I mean, those organizations who cannot decide on anything, because they cannot decide on anything because of different...
United States, United States of America.
No, but I said United Nations. I said that the organization who is not really able to find out any conclusive, resolution for any topic. So we underline underline this is a sensitive issue in many member states, not in one I live in.
Yeah. I know, but the risk is that a small group of states will go ahead. This is the real risk.
Yes, this is a risk, and those what we called, or is called, two levels, or
I also wonder what the young generation would like the union to do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because actually I think it's been a concern for the young people of like what is happening with the EU. Are we like separating what is happening? And actually part of one of the European youth hearings we had it like a couple of weeks ago, there was this idea mentioned that we need this common foreign policy, that this is a concern for young generations of Europeans, that this is something that they want. We don't know exactly what shape that should be in, but that's a discussion to go. I agree with you that it has to happen later stage. But first, we need to know what do we want to do, what's the goal, and where are we going? Exactly, very practically, because sometimes we get. I feel like it's very common that in the parliament we get like just distracted with all these technicalities, but there's so many more things that can be done before that can create and pave the way for, you know, better proposals or like really find a way towards that. And this applies not only to common foreign policy, also in, you know, environmental issues, the Green Deal. I think this is a big concern for young people. Also, like personally, like this eco-anxiety that it's coming up, like this is something that that it's a big thing. Also, like after COVID, we see like that this has affected a lot young people, also that the ones that studied during COVID times. So, you know, it's a lot of different things that have impacted the young people, and I think the stronger the EU is, or the stronger that we portray ourselves, at least,
but
that
it's
will
not
create
the
more faith.
technicalities. It's not the technicalities, because you can't have a common foreign policy if Germany speak what is voice, and France okay, and Italy okay, and Romania okay. So we need to give this competence to the European Union. This means you can't not call federal, but means a federalization, because foreign policy is the essence of a state. If you put together, it's not to the state, no more to the state. This is the problem. So
I agree.
For this is not a technicality, it is a fundamental choice.
Indeed, but it's also like leading towards what Elżbieta was saying, that that basically a lot of member states get scared when you use certain terminology. So this is very political. And there's things I think that can be done or assessed before we enter into how we want to call things. I think that's a technicality. Of course, in practice, it might be similar to this federation, like or whatever we want to make it.
Call them Philippe is the
exactly.
same.
But it's true that it's a terminology that then becomes, people get scared of discussing certain things. So let's stay away from that. That's what I would say, and try to work on what is the issue itself.
Can I intervene?
Oh, yes.
Just as so right now in the country I come from, there's the term sovereignty, get back our sovereignty, sovereignty. And it's a wonderful word, I agree. It speaks about self-rule, I'm empowered. But what is sovereignty in the world we live in? If we just call it sovereignty, does it mean there won't be wars at our border that don't affect us? Does it mean that the pandemic won't go through? Does it mean we won't trade with other nations? Does it mean we don't want to travel freely? What does that even mean, sovereignty, you know? So it seems from the discussion that we're running away from federation or confederation, but I would run away equally from sovereignty. Right now there's a big fake news in Romania that we voted here against sovereignty, that EU law, that the EU law is more important than the national law, as if it's some breaking news, because the whole union was built under the premises that there needs to be a sort of hierarchy of rules or something like that, or otherwise their value is zero. But for many people, it's breaking news. They didn't know. So we have to really go down and speak again normally, like normal people. But also challenge this stuff that comes from the extreme right, especially that makes it look like people are doing some underground new world order. I don't know what. It's going to be tough, but we have to really engage it.
And sorry if I may, also I think in order to make that happen, to make people more aware and more resilient to this disinformation or fake news, it's also important to give a lot of attention to civil society organizations that can work on the ground, youth organizations, youth associations, because they are the ones that are in touch with the people that are not in this Brussels bubble in which we are in, right, and are not so aware of the things. So I think it's very important that we don't forget about the people that can do the work on the ground, because I feel sometimes in the EU, like it's a bit, it gets a bit blurred, you know, and dissipated in a way. So I think it might be a good way to get that done.
And
But the exercise of the Conference of the Future of Europe was an exercise, and the result was we want more Europe.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, and also the European Youth Event that takes place every 2 years. That's also very like a way of give young people the voices, but giving like I feel this is very like at European level, and we need to get into the local level, and that's I think the challenge that that the Parliament and also like the EU in itself is finding like hard to navigate basically.
It's true, but I think that this is the most difficult question: how to reach out to the normal people with the European message. I mean, the European message: you live in a peaceful organization. In your country, you are a sovereign country. You are not united in Europe. You live in a peaceful environment. You live in a place in the world where everybody wants to live. This is the most prosperous and the best place to live in Europe, in the world. That's true. European Union, it's such a way. Thanks to what? Thanks to this, that member states at the very beginning decided to share or to give away some part of their responsibilities to the common pot. That's it. I mean, this is as simple as this, but this is as simple as this. But again, it can be used, as we said, it can be used as a awful and negative tool in the political discussion, and it's used because it's not true. We just want to live in the environment and in the part of land of Europe which is peaceful, which is prosperous, which is competitive, which gives a good life for our kids, for us, but which is green, of course, which is clean, whatever.
So maybe we can all fight for European sovereignty. We say we need more European sovereignty.
Yes.
We wanted to to preserve our states, their history, their richness, their difference. We want to preserve but we need a European sovereignty. But this is difficult to explain.
Difficult to explain, but also for me it's difficult to understand this position because I'm very regional. So I always say that I'm Silesian, Polish, and European, and it's in line. I mean, it's not. It's the same.
I was president of my region.
Yes, exactly.
Very attached to the independence of my region in their competences.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, we all want to build a continent where we can be who we want to be.
Exactly.
Yes.
Actually, special moments need special measures, and why not special people? And maybe this is indeed Europe's moment to once again answer the call of history. The time is up. Thank you all for accepting our invitation. The best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mulțumesc.